Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ken Calvert, and welcome to the Father Joe Grimaldi Podcast. The Father Joe Podcast, proudly supported by Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln on 12 Mile Road, just east of Telegraph, home of the Star Treatment. I want to talk to you about Lincoln Copilot 360, the next generation of safety on the road. It's a package of Lincoln's 5 most popular driver assist technologies. It's available in all 2020 models. It's a sophisticated extra set of eyes to help you keep your family secure on the road ahead. Now, this includes a 360-degree camera, active park assist plus, evasive steering assist, reverse brake assist, and adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist, which includes stop and go and lane centering as well as speed sign recognition. This upgrade from the standard Lincoln Copilot 360 helps keep your journey seamless and stress-free. Stress-free driving, that's another reason to visit Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln on 12 Mile Road, just east of Telegraph. It's the home of the Star Treatment. Well, my dear friend, Father Joe Grimaldi, I have my hand sanitizer on the counter. I'm wearing a surgical mask. I'm not going to leave my home until I can be assured that I'm safe. Do you think I'm doing the right thing?
I think you're crazy.
It's everywhere. And it's important that we talk about it. It obviously has moved its way into the corridors of the Catholic Church for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Do you want to take it, or should I set it up? How do you want to handle this?
When we speak about the church, what is the church doing? Well, in the public areas, they're taking every precaution that you can imagine. For example, in the cafeterias where the church is, particularly when they have their coffee hour after Mass and things of this sort, we know that all of the common areas are being sanitized completely every day. And so the employees of the church cafeteria, we know, are going to be told they have to stay home if they feel sick. A lot of people speak with bravado. I show up at work even when I'm coughing and I really have the flu. Well, that's nothing to boast about. As a matter of fact, when you're putting other people in danger of catching the flu because you're there, is not something to be proud of. It's time for you to make a decision to stay home when you are sick. Now, the other thing, too, is that each and every day, all of the equipment that is used commonly has to be completely disinfected with some serious sanitizer if you want. Hand sanitizers are usually available in the common areas. Oh, the other thing, too, some people are going so far that if anything is suspected of being made in China, we do not go near it. Well, it's hard to do when you consider all the stuff that does come into the United States, and it's been in the United States for a long time before we actually touch it.
Has anyone looked at the stock market and how the impact of parts and necessary items that are shipped to us from China have basically halted the entire industrial system as we know it?
I'm not a financial guru by any means, but I do understand that that's happening. However, it's been an up and down situation in the market, I'm told, from people that do know.
Right.
But the other thing I want to say, too, is that when we come to the liturgical aspects of the church, the precautions are being taken. For example, the distribution of the precious blood, the wine, I suppose, before it's consecrated. But we do not use the distribution of the precious blood. That used to be a common thing for most of the churches, particularly because it's part of the advances we've made in liturgical actions that we receive the body and blood. But we forget sometimes that the body and blood is included in the host, and the body and blood is included in the precious blood. So it's not like we're lacking. People say, well, then I won't be receiving fully the body and blood of Christ if I just receive the host. Well, that's a mistake because you are receiving fully. The host contains the body and blood of Jesus Christ. It's the whole body of Jesus Christ. So we cannot, how should I put it, try to separate that theologically. The other thing I want to mention, too, is that most churches have asked people not to shake hands during the kiss of peace. They certainly can acknowledge one another with eye signals or waving or whatever the case might be. And actually, I've seen that being done a long time. That's not new.
Yeah.
People don't like to shake hands anyway. I shouldn't say that.
No, you can say that, Joe, because that's true. And you may have noticed that a lot of people have already taken to, and more will start, the fist bump instead of a handshake. And I don't know if you've been on an elevator lately, and we'll get back to what you're saying here, but I just wanted to chime in and say that people usually use their knuckles now on an elevator. So you have to sort of react accordingly because you're going to have the high end of the participants and the low end in terms of what we will call the panic value. And again, getting back to the Catholic Church, I'm going to let you continue with the various mandates or suggestions that have been put out there.
So basically, there's no shaking of hands, generally speaking. I don't know if all of the churches have enforced that, but they are asked to. They're asked to make sure that people are aware of that. They're also counseling people to make sure to, at home at least, to wash their hands as often as possible. And so even when they come to church, they'll be ready. And of course, the other thing which is interesting, not interesting, but a reality, what's happened in Japan, the bishops there have even called off Mass.
Yeah.
So that's not planned, as far as I know, in the United States. But by the same token, people are asked, stay home if you feel sick. Don't come to church to spread whatever it is to other people. These are ordinary common sense precautions, preventative actions that we should be aware of and we should try to follow through.
When you think about it then, I saw a film clip this morning of a couple of airlines scrubbing the cabin, scrubbing it. And, when you think about how many people get on a jet each and every day as it makes its stop and it continues on and it's recycled each and every day, you can only imagine how many people have been on that plane that have carried some sort of a virus on board, be it the tray table, the armrest. Think about how many sets of hands have been on the armrest. And, of course, the overhead cabin. It's an
infested.
Incubator, an airplane with the air recycling over and over again. Luckily for us, we have developed over the years antibodies, an immune system that, for most of us who are healthy, shouldn't really have to worry. We're not going to change our lifestyle now, are we? Or are we?
Well, I think some of the things that are recommended are certainly common sense. There's
Absolutely. I agree with them, too.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is it might change people to an extent that, all right, they're going to be a little more conscious about washing their hands before they sit down and share things with others. So I think there might be that effect of this whole thing.
But when you talk about shutting down a Mass, advising parishioners to stay home and watch it on TV, I hope I'm not proven wrong. God willing, I pray I'm not wrong.
Well, I think in Japan they've had so many cases that they're reacting to what has happened there. We have had a large number of cases, I think, in the United States, but not to, a horrible extent that you would have for the ordinary flu. And so it's, it's kind of, we need to take precautions, but we should not go into a state of hysteria either.
What do you think about calling off Masses?
In the United States?
Yes.
I would say no.
Okay.
I don't see a reason for that right now.
There is some talk about them calling off the Summer Olympics. There is some talk about having a fanless March tournament where just the teams play basketball. It's borderline hysteria, but...
Yeah, if you're speaking about calling off masses, then we have to stop going to grocery stores.
Yes.
We have to stop. I mean,
Yes.
What do you do? You have it delivered, but we're not, that's been touched by different people also before we get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where, a grocery store. What do? Bring in guys in hazmat suits and give the shopping carts a Silkwood shower each and every night? Absolutely scrub down the countertops? We're looking way out there right now, so slow down, Ken. Slow down. Let's bring it back to reality here and talk about what the church is doing in basic protection for us, the parishioners. Common sense as opposed to total hysteria.
Well, that's what it's all about. Because I say, if you're going to call off mass, you might as well call off going to stores.
Right.
I mean...
But today, I couldn't find a radio station that wasn't talking about the coronavirus. It was like, oh my goodness, stop.
It has a name.
COVID-19. We are not going to live in bunkers, I don't think. I think there are medical professionals that would tell us, quite frankly, don't go to church. Medical professionals would tell us, for right now, don't go into grocery stores. But they haven't, so let's be realistic. And getting back to the church, I'm told that right now communion, the Eucharist, will be hand-to-hand only.
And for the most part, that's what it is anyway. But, maybe those few that are receiving on the tongue will change to the other. But for the most part, it's hand-to-hand. We very rarely have people that want it put on the tongue.
But we're not seeing priests wear surgical gloves to hand out communion yet.
No.
Okay, all right. Did you notice today at Mass any, did you deliver the Eucharist by hand to tongue?
There may have been 2 or 3 people that wanted it that way, but usually not. The coronavirus was not discussed at Mass today at all. All right.
No kidding. All right, I find that fascinating, but it was part of my obligation to talk to you about this topic. And here's why. Here's another reason why I brought it up. In radio, you never neglected what the water cooler talk was. It was paramount that you were on the same page with your listening audience. And unfortunately, this coronavirus, COVID-19, is completely driving our newscasts on virtually every platform. Social media, radio, television, at all. It's all people are talking about. And I apologize if I sound hysterical. I'm simply trying to bring the topic of said coronavirus to you, the Catholic priest, and how we are handling it in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I don't know at what point do we stop ordinary daily functions or actions that we do. I don't know. I don't know at what point we're going to stop going to grocery stores. What do you do for food? I mean, we're going to need food. It's going to have to be delivered, so somebody else is touching it. I mean, I don't know at one point. I would think that when something like that happens, the grocery stores would be much more in the forefront of stopping than the Mass.
Yeah, it's actually, as we continue with the podcast, you are going to see some changes for right now at church, at Mass. You're going to see some precautions that are being taken basically for the parishioners' comfort. And if you haven't seen them, perhaps you will.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is this, that the thing changes you'll see, some people have been doing it all themselves automatically. So, for example, the Kiss of Peace, people prefer not to do that very often. You have communion on the tongue, as rare as it is. So I don't know how well they're going to notice that, because if we're going to ask everybody to do communion in the hand, it's going to happen without people noticing the 3 or 4 people that prefer it on the tongue. I think many churches, believe it or not, don't have the precious blood distributed. So even without the precautions, that's their way of doing liturgy. They don't use the precious blood. They give out the host itself. And we have to know that theologically, Jesus is present, body and blood, in that host, just as well as he is when we distribute on the both species. So we have to keep that in mind. I think we've gone a little bit too far with the exaggerated anxiety that I think many people are feeling. And I think we have to settle down and use common sense. I mean, we would use common sense even if we had the common cold.
I felt it was necessary that we discuss the topic, but by the way, we should also pray that our medical professionals and the people in research around the world find a quick, fast, safe solution to this issue so that we can get back to our lives and realize that we've learned a valuable lesson about perhaps being a little more sanitary without becoming a hopeless, helpless germaphobe. But stores are doing the correct thing anyway. I can't go into a store without seeing a hand sanitizer machine by the shopping carts as it is now. I can't go into a gym or a physical therapist's or a doctor's office without seeing those items readily available. So,
I'd like to add something. We could pray for the professionals, but we should also pray earnestly for those people who are dying.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overlook that at all, but you're absolutely right. Let's also remember it's Lent and to look in on our seniors and look out for those that may be struggling. All of the practices that we put together each and every day to be a good Catholic, especially now during Lent. Now more than ever, put those promises into practice. And let's all pray, maybe a little harder, for a speedy resolve to the coronavirus.
I'm with that. Thank you.
All right. Well, all right, my friends. We look forward to seeing you next time on the always highly sanitized edition of the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast.
I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
We'd like to remind you to share the Father Joe podcast with your friends. You can reach Father Joe at frjoepodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on Facebook or say, Alexa, play the Father Joe podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time.